My wife was faking death on the hospital bed. I pounced right at her and slapped her twice hard. I even called the organ donation department, planning to show her my love by literally pouring my heart out. In my past life, I was too busy wallowing in sorrow. After I drank the water my wife's best friend handed me, I passed out for 3 days and 2 nights. By the time I woke up again, my wife had already been cremated to ashes. Before I even had time to grieve, debt collectors showed up at my door. That's when I found out my wife owed tens of millions in debt before she died. They not only took both of my kidneys, they also forced me to work 24 hours a day to pay off the debt. In just 10 years, I looked as old as someone in their 80s. And right at that moment, my wife, who'd been dead for 10 years, was hugging her lover and drove past me in a fancy luxury car. She laughed and threw down 100 yuan, saying it was to thank me for all my efforts. I couldn't catch my breath at all and kicked the bucket right on the spot. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day my wife had a heart attack. Looking at my wife covered with a white sheet in front of me, I sneered coldly in my heart. Since you're so eager to die, then I'll grant your wish. Wang Manyun, my wife's best friend, kept urging me to drink water. I snapped back to my senses and looked at her. In my past life, I passed out right after drinking this exact glass of water. I was almost 100% certain there was definitely some drug in this glass of water. They just wanted me to miss Liu Ruyan's cremation scene. I put down the glass of water, ignoring Wang Manyun's attempts to stop me, and walked to Liu Ruyan's bedside. I pulled off the white sheet. Liu Ruyan's face was flushed and healthy, and her breathing looked steady and calm. I was just too heartbroken in my past life, too stupid and naive, to notice this obvious trick. I raised my hand and slapped Liu Ruyan hard across the face. Liu Ruyan didn't move an inch. It looked like she was afraid of being caught faking, so she had been injected with anesthetic. Wang Manyun screamed loudly, thinking I'd found out Liu Ruyan was faking her death. Brother-in-law, how can you hit her so hard even if you're angry? I kept hitting Liu Ruyan as hard as I could all over her body. Seeing that Wang Manyun was about to spill the beans any second, I put on a bitterly disappointed look and started sobbing. I told you not to stay up late all the time. I told you to go get a regular physical checkup. Why didn't you ever listen to me? You left me all alone here. What am I supposed to do now? Wang Manyun swallowed hard and froze right on the spot. I didn't bother wasting time with her. I just took out my phone and made a call. Yeah, I want to arrange an organ donation here. The person just passed away not long ago. Hurry up and come over as soon as possible. Wang Manyun tried to speak up to stop me, but she couldn't reveal their secret because of her identity. So she took out her phone and sent a message really fast. The organ donation staff arrived in just a few minutes. I put on a heartbroken and devastated look. My wife has always been a very kind person. Since she died unexpectedly this time, I want to let her life continue in another way and help more people in need. That's so noble of you, sir. I thank you on behalf of all those waiting families. What organs would you like to donate? I sighed and said, my wife died from a sudden heart attack. I don't know which organs are still usable. Just cut her open first and take whatever organs are still usable, okay? If none of the organs are usable, then donate her body to a medical school as a teaching cadaver. You can't do that. Brother-in-law, Ruyan never wanted to donate her organs. She told me that before herself. We have to respect Ruyan's last wishes. Manyun, I'm Ruyan's legal husband. I have every right to make this decision. You and Ruyan are just good friends with no blood relation. Who do you think has the final say here? I'm sure you don't need me to spell that out for you. Besides, every minute you stop us now is another minute the organs get damaged. You're a doctor yourself. Don't you want to save lives and help the injured? The organ donation staff also spoke up. Yeah, Dr. Wang, please step aside right now. There's no way Wang Manyun would step aside. She was so anxious she was climbing the walls. I already contacted Ruyan's mom just now. You should at least let her see Ruyan. One last time, right? Liu Ruyan's mother, Du Xiaomin, ran over anxiously. She still had her perm rollers in her hair. It looked like she was in the middle of a beauty appointment. She saw that Liu Ruyan was still fully intact on the hospital bed and let out a huge sigh of relief. Then she slapped me hard and yelled, "What's the point of this? What terrible bad luck did Ruyan have to marry you? You cursed my daughter to an early death, and now you even want to cut my daughter open and take her organs. If anyone dares to lay a finger on me today, I'll kill his whole family. We're not donating, not at all. Go bother someone else, okay?" The staff from the organ donation office felt disappointed, but they had no choice but to leave. Only then did Wang Manyun heave a sigh of relief. She picked up a white sheet and covered Liu Ruyan with it. Du Xiaomin was sitting on the sofa nearby. She pointed at me and started cursing again. You money-obsessed stinking bastard. Your own wife is dead and you don't even feel sad. Instead of getting her cremated and buried for peace, you want her to be a whole-body donor for medical use? Do you want my daughter to be cut into pieces? If you want to be a good guy, go donate your own body. You can go die right now for all I care. I'll make the call to donate your whole body. I covered my face, sighed heavily and said, Mom, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I just wanted to. Even thinking about it is not allowed. Get the hell out of here right now. I'll take my daughter to the crematorium later. I shut up immediately, acting all submissive and obedient. I took the glass of water Wang Manyun just brought me and handed it to Du Xiaomin. Du Xiaomin didn't suspect anything wrong. She'd been tense and yelling non-stop the whole time, so her mouth was already dry. She chugged the whole glass of water in one go. Wang Manyun didn't even have time to stop her. Barely 2 minutes after she finished drinking, Du Xiaomin passed out. The cold sweat Wang Manyun just wiped off immediately came back. She stammered, Brother-in-law, you're not gonna donate her organs again, are you? I shook my head. I laid Du Xiaomin flat on the sofa. Why would I do that? Mom already said it's not allowed. Of course I won't keep doing that. Wang Manyun sighed in relief. Auntie fainted suddenly. It might be something serious. You should take her to the emergency room right now. I'll arrange Sister Ruyan's cremation myself. Hearing that, I looked at her with a half smile and said, That's backwards, isn't it? You're a doctor. You're the one who should take care of the patient. And I'm Ruyan's husband. It makes more sense for me to arrange the cremation. Don't you think so? After that, I contacted the crematorium directly and asked them to come right away. Wang Manyun was as anxious as a cat on a hot tin roof. She kept trying to wake Du Xiaomin up, but no matter how hard she shook her, Du Xiaomin stayed as still as a log. Until the crematorium staff wheeled Liu Ruyan away, Wang Manyun finally couldn't hold it back anymore. She grabbed my sleeve. Her voice was already hoarse. Brother-in-law, I thought I just saw Sister Ruyan move. I think we can still try to resuscitate her. Hearing that, I shoved the death certificate in her face. Manyun, think carefully before you speak. If Sister Ruyan really comes back to life right now, what responsibility will your hospital have to take? What responsibility will you have to take yourself? This is murder on your part. You're treating human life like dirt. I don't know if your hospital can stay open after that, but you'll definitely end up in jail. So think again carefully. Did you really see Ruyan move? Wang Manyun was completely frazzled. She had no idea how to refute me. I let out a cold snort, shook off Wang Manyun's hand, and left with the crematorium van. Wang Manyun let out a cry of alarm and quickly picked up her phone to make a call. I looked at Liu Ruyan lying on the stretcher and couldn't help but laugh out loud. Then I saw Liu Ruyan's finger move slightly. It looked like she knew she was about to be cremated, and the anesthetic was wearing off. She was starting to wake up. Driver, please hurry up. My mother-in-law is trying to steal my wife's body. She insists on donating her organs. I just want my wife to leave this world whole, just like how she came. The driver responded, Got it. He slammed his foot on the gas pedal. In my past life, when I ran into Liu Ruyan on the street, it had already been 10 years, but her face looked almost the same as it does now. There were barely any signs of aging on her. I threw myself in front of her car, hoping to reconnect with her, to make sure it was really Liu Ruyan, to tell her how much I'd missed her all these years. Liu Ruyan squinted her eyes. It took her a long time to barely recognize me. She smiled and said, Oh, it's you. It's only been 10 years. Why do you look older than my grandpa? My voice was hoarse at that time, and I was hunched over. I really didn't look like a 50-year-old man at all. I stammered and asked, Weren't you dead? I faked my death on purpose, just to get rid of you. Ha ha ha. Liu Ruyan didn't finish her sentence. But what else was there for me to not understand? If she'd just asked for a divorce directly, I would never have said no. But if we got divorced right away, I'd take half of her assets, and she'd be labeled as a cheating scumbag. But faking her death is a totally different story. Not only can she dump all debts on me and transfer all her assets completely, she can also get a brand new identity, with nothing to be afraid of, and stay with Jiboda openly and rightfully. I was so angry I couldn't speak a word, but Liu Ruyan seemed totally in the mood to keep talking. She smiled and told me back then at the hospital, I could actually hear every word you said. I still haven't forgotten how you cried back then. I'm really curious about one thing. How can a grown man cry like a honking goose? Ah, that's so damn funny. Amid all the mocking laughter, I clutched my chest and collapsed. Jiboda went, "Whoa, honey. Is he trying to pull a scam on us? Let's get out of here right now." Liu Ruyan also yelled that this was bad luck and just drove off straight away, not caring at all whether I lived or died. My last memory was watching the car drive further away. Then everything went pitch black. Now staring at Liu Ruyan's young, pretty face, I leaned down and pressed myself against her chest, listening to her steady heartbeat, and said everything I never got to say in my past life. "I know you're not dead. You, Wei Jian, have been cheating for ages. You even put on this whole fake act, just to run off and live happily with Jiboda, and leave me here to pay off all your debts. But I don't hate you. I've decided to respect your wish. Since you want to be dead so badly, then I'll send you to get cremated as soon as possible. I know you can hear every word I'm saying right now, but I'm not sure if you can feel pain. I really hope you can. That way you can experience cremation firsthand. After all, you're probably the first person to get cremated alive." Liu Ruyan's fingers trembled slightly. She couldn't move at all, but tears started rolling down her face. I reached out and wiped her tears away. "Don't be in such a rush. You can cry all you want once you're in the incinerator." My phone kept ringing non-stop. It was Wang Manyun and Du Xiaomin calling. But right now, I'm just a poor man who just lost his wife. It's totally normal that I don't feel like picking up calls, right? The driver was speeding the whole way. The trip that normally takes half an hour only took us 20 minutes to arrive. But the crematorium was really crowded today. It would take at least another hour for Liu Ruyan's turn. I frowned and went to find the person in charge. Then I switched up my expression immediately and started crying right on cue. My wife died of a sudden heart attack. My mother-in-law fainted when she heard the news. She's being rescued in the hospital right now. I have to rush back there as soon as possible. Please let my wife get cremated first. I don't want anything bad to happen to my mother-in-law too. The person in charge had never met anyone who wanted to cut the line for cremation before. I know you're in a huge hurry, but everyone else has been waiting for ages too. I can't just let you cut the line like that." Even as he said that, he held out his hand pointedly. I knew right away he was asking for money. I took out my phone immediately and transferred 2,000 yuan straight to him. "Please, brother, do me a favor. I'm an orphan. My wife and mother-in-law have always been so good to me. I really can't lose my mother-in-law too." The person in charge was moved by my sincerity, so Liu Ruyan successfully cut the line. She was pushed into the incinerator in less than 10 minutes. The staff was just about to press the incineration button, but I stopped him. I didn't want him to become a murderer, and I also wanted to take revenge myself. Under my strong insistence, the staff member agreed. I pressed the button, but right at this moment, at the entrance, we heard Du Xiaomin and Wang Manyun's anxious voices. Stop right now. Don't talk nonsense. Stop it right now. Pull my daughter out of there." "Brother-in-law, wait a second. Auntie still has something to say to Ruyan." "Get out of my way!" "I won't allow you to cremate my daughter. I'll do it myself." At this critical moment, these two still wanted to carry on with their fake death plan. I knelt on the ground and said sadly, "Mom, Ruyan is already gone. Let's just let her rest in peace, okay? I'm Ruyan's husband. I'm not leaving here." Our argument drew a lot of onlookers. The staff members looked at each other confusedly. "What kind of sad drama are you putting on here? The crematorium is not a place for you to mess around." And with that, he pressed the incineration button. Wang Manyun and Du Xiaomin lunged over recklessly, trying to stop the operation, like ferocious tigers pouncing on their prey. With twisted, menacing expressions, the staff member jumped in shock and ducked aside reflexively. Wang Manyun and Du Xiaomin couldn't hold back their momentum and slammed right onto the control buttons. With a loud booming sound, roaring flames instantly engulfed Liu Ruyan. Two sharp screams rang out right after. Everyone stared at Wang Manyun and Du Xiaomin, while I kept my eyes fixed on Liu Ruyan inside the incinerator. The anesthetic Liu Ruyan must have worn off completely. I could vaguely see her opening her mouth and reaching out her hand. But sadly, there was too much noise outside, and no one noticed the scene inside the incinerator at all. A little over 1 minute passed before everyone finally looked back towards the incinerator. The crematorium staff started whispering curiously among themselves. "This is the first time we've seen a corpse reach that high. It looks exactly like a living person. Good thing it's daytime right now. If this happened at midnight, I'd swear it was a zombie rising. I wiped away the non-existent tears from my eyes and pressed down the corner of my mouth that was about to curl up. Then I put on a sad, pitiful look and said, "My wife was always the nicest to her mom." She probably heard her mom's voice just now and wanted to sit up to see her mom one last time. Then I wiped fake tears at the incinerator and said, "Honey, rest in peace all the way. Don't you worry about anything. I will definitely take good care of our mom. I'll try my best to let her reunite with you soon." Wang Manyun ignored Du Xiaomin, who was collapsed limp on the ground, and stumbled over towards me in a panic. When she saw the scene inside the incinerator, she was scared half to death on the spot. She pressed the incineration button like crazy, but the fire wouldn't go out at all. "I'm so dead right now." This was the first time the staff had seen such a hysterical family member. They quickly pushed Wang Manyun away. "Ma'am, please calm down. We know you're devastated right now, but what's done is done. We can't bring her back. You acting like this will only make her leave restless." Wang Manyun's face was terrifyingly pale and plopped straight down on the cold floor. "It's over. It's all over. Everything's completely ruined now." Du Xiaomin scrambled over to my feet on all fours. She tugged at my pants and cursed loudly, "You bastard! You killed my daughter! Give me back my daughter's life." I sighed softly. Then I took out the death certificate and said, "Mom, I know you're completely heartbroken, but Ruyan's death has nothing to do with me. She died of a sudden heart attack. If you don't believe me, ask Manyun. She was the one who tried to resuscitate Ruyan, and the one who issued this death certificate to me personally." After saying that, I glanced at Wang Manyun, the smile on my lips almost slipped out without control. "Isn't that right, Manyun?" Wang Manyun had no idea how to respond at all. If she said Ruyan wasn't dead, how would she explain the death certificate? If she said Ruyan was dead, Du Xiaomin would never buy that story. But right after I said that, Du Xiaomin also came to her senses. "It's you! You're the one who killed my daughter." She was obviously just drunk. "Why the hell did you issue a death certificate? Now my daughter's been cremated already. This is all your fault." What she said made perfect sense to everyone. Everyone present was completely stunned. The staff members' faces also turned pale with fright. "Oh my God, this is murder!" When Du Xiaomin heard that, her eyes rolled back in her head, and she fainted dead away. I reacted almost immediately and slapped Wang Manyun hard across the face. "Manyun, are you out of your mind? How dare you make a sick joke like that? My wife is dead, that's a solid fact. Why are you spouting nonsense?" Wang Manyun was completely stunned by the slap. The surrounding staff heard what I said and also thought Wang Manyun was just making a bad joke and went back to their own work one after another. Once Liu Ruyan's cremation was fully completed, I put on a furious look and left the crematorium with Liu Ruyan's ashes. Before I left, I didn't forget to leave a message for Wang Manyun. "You scared mom out of consciousness for no reason. You're responsible for taking her to the hospital. It's not that I don't want to stay and watch the drama. The truth is, I have other more important things to attend to." Once I got home, I casually placed Liu Ruyan's ashes in a clearly visible spot in the living room. Then I immediately contacted a lawyer and started preparing to take over Liu Ruyan's company, inheritance and other assets. In my past life, I was too grief-stricken, and by the time I realized what was going on, the company was already taken by others. If I don't act fast this time, once Du Xiaomin wakes up, she'll definitely beat me to it. Lawyer Chen, Ruyan died very suddenly. But before she passed away, she mentioned something about family trusts and overseas accounts to me. "I want you to use all your connections within 48 hours to help me find out all her real transaction records under her name." Chen Jinjiang on the other end of the line hesitated a little. "Mr. Li, according to the current public information, Ms. Liu only has a few properties, and that nearly bankrupt consulting firm under her name. What's more, she also has millions of dollars in debt. Right, Lawyer Chen? Liu Ruyan is a woman who's smart to the bone. She'd rather fake her death than get a divorce, which means the assets she wants to keep are way more valuable than that multi-million debt. Help me look into it. I'll triple your commission. Generous rewards always bring out bold people." The next afternoon, I received an encrypted email from Lawyer Chen. Just as I expected, Liu Ruyan used her so-called medical consulting company to launder money and transfer assets for a long time. She took advantage of Wang Manyun's identity as a doctor to buy a large number of illegal prescription drug formulas and registered them under several offshore companies. What's even more ironic, I found a secret safe, located right in that shabby old garage. When I pushed open that rusty rolling shutter door, a strong smell of mold hit me in the face. This was a corner I had never set foot in before. I pried open a hidden compartment. There was no jewelry inside, only stacks of neatly arranged cash, and several digital currency storage devices, millions in debt. Liu Ruyan, you plan to make me take on the debt and struggle in hell, while you take these tens of millions worth of Bitcoin to live happily abroad with Jiboywan, huh? I counted it. The cash here alone is more than 2 million. I didn't rush to deposit it in the bank. Instead, I contacted several lending companies that Liu Ruyan owed the most money to deal with those ruthless loan sharks. The best way isn't to run away. It's to buy them off. I arranged meetings with the heads of those firms at a high-end private club. Everyone, Liu Ruyan has been cremated. The death certificate is right here. I bet you've all heard the news. Mr. Lin, even if the person is dead, the debt doesn't disappear. You are the first heir. You have to pay back this money. I never said I wouldn't pay it back. Here is 2 million. As a gesture of good faith, I'll pay part of the interest first. I will pay off the remaining debt after I take over Liu Ruyan's company through legal equity pledge. But there's one condition. Liu Ruyan's mother, Du Xiaomin, and that man named Jiboda, in their hands, they might still hold some of Liu Ruyan's private savings. They're spreading rumors everywhere now, saying I murdered her, trying to deny me the inheritance. If they succeed, you probably won't get a single cent of this money. What do you mean, Mr. Lin? Don't let them mess up my plans. And make sure they get a taste of being hounded for debt too. Since they want evidence so badly, I'll make them drown in the mire of debt first. Liu Ruyan's company is called Ruyan Trading. It sounds very elegant by name, but it's actually a dirty, empty shell company. On the first day of taking over the company, I brought 12 burly security guards with me. The finance supervisor Wang Qin, who is Wang Manyun's cousin, was holding a pile of documents at that moment, her face deathly pale. Mr. Lin, this is against the rules, isn't it? Ms. Liu just passed away, and you're making such a big scene. To fire us old employees? Rules? You embezzled 380,000 of public funds and faked input invoices, Supervisor Wang. Do you want to talk about rules with me, or go talk to the Economic Investigation Squad? I'll give you half an hour to take all emails and transaction records between Liu Ruyan and Jiboda from your computer and copy everything out. If you do this well, that 380,000 will be counted as your severance pay. If you don't, you'll go to jail to keep your cousin company. In less than 20 minutes, I got everything I wanted, which included evidence of Liu Ruyan illegally transferring assets to Jiboda and the electronic contract for the property they bought abroad. These things were originally Liu Ruyan's chips to restart her life. After faking her death, now they have all become sharp weapons for me to accuse them of fraud and property transfer. The sky was overcast. I looked at the constantly changing balance in my bank account and felt no emotion at all in my heart. Under Liu Ruyan's name, fixed assets and digital assets in the wallet, plus the equity after company restructuring, are worth over 50 million yuan in total, and that 10 million debt through my manipulation has been classified as Liu Ruyan's personal fraud debt. Since the involved party is already dead and her assets have been liquidated to pay off debts, the remaining bad debts were all dumped on Du Xiaomi, the guarantor. This is the last big gift I gave her. Thank you, honey. Now I've got money, a house, and a company. I'll live a super cool life from now on. Even cooler than you were in your past life. I got totally wasted and passed out right on the couch until I was woken up by a knock on the door the next day. I rubbed my aching head from the hangover and opened the door. Outside the door were Wang Manyun and Du Xiaomin, plus a man who looked a few years older than me. By the looks of it, that must be Jiboda, whom I met in my past life. His face was full of grief and anger. He was holding a boy around 6 or 7 years old by the hand. The boy looked very much like Liu Ruyan. Is this Liu Ruyan's illegitimate child with him? No wonder Liu Ruyan refused to have kids after we got married. It turns out she already had a kid with Jiboda long ago. The three of them looked devastated, with super heavy dark circles under their eyes. A few policemen were following behind them. Officer, it's this guy, He cremated my daughter when she was still alive. Arrest him right now. Cremate him too directly. Let him taste what that feels like. I already knew this drama was coming. I just didn't expect it to come so soon. I pretended to sigh helplessly and said, "Mom, can you stop making such ridiculous jokes?" As I said that, I took out the death certificate. "Officer, this is my wife's death certificate. My mom can't accept my wife's passing. She's probably not in her right mind now." There's nothing wrong with this certificate. I sighed and continued speaking. My wife and I have been married for 3 years. We've had an extremely good relationship the whole time. I knew when my wife passed, she wouldn't want her body to rot, so I had her cremated immediately. Did I do something wrong here? Du Xiaomin clutched her chest tightly. "Bullshit. My daughter hated you ages ago. You boring loser. If Boda hadn't been unable to get divorced back then, why would Ruyan marry you out of spite? You did this on purpose. You cut the line on purpose to cremate her first, just to get my daughter's inheritance and her company. I contacted the company staff yesterday and confirmed this. What else do you have to say for yourself?" I put on a look of total disbelief. My eyes so red they looked like they were bleeding. "Mom, you can scold me all you want. But what Ruyan and I had was real. If we didn't have real feelings for each other, why would she appoint me as the sole inheritor of her estate? You're saying Ruyan is still alive? Have you ever thought about it? Such a big hospital. Can't even tell if a person is dead or alive?" Manyun told me herself that Ruyan was brain dead and her heart had stopped beating. What living person is like that? Du Xiaomin gestured for Wang Manyun to speak, but Wang Manyun just kept her head down. Makes sense though. If she admits the death certificate is fake now, she'll be in huge trouble. It's better for her to just play along with the lie. The scene immediately fell into a deadlock. Jiboda tugged at Du Xiaomin's sleeve. Du Xiaomin stopped talking. She sighed. "Ruyan is really not dead. I'm Ruyan's boyfriend. Ruyan and I broke up over a misunderstanding back then. She married you out of spite. I got divorced this year and brought my kid to find Ruyan. Ruyan realized she still loves me, so she planned to fake her death to leave you. But we never expected you would just cremate Ruyan directly. But don't blame Ruyan for this. Ruyan did this just because she didn't want to hurt you. She's a kind person. Now that Ruyan is gone, we just hope you can accept this child and give him the inheritance he is entitled to." I took a sip of water, mimicking Du Xiaomin's tone. "Bullshit, Mom. I know you and Ruyan never got along. Ruyan's will left you not a single cent before she died. So, you brought this random kid you found somewhere, trying to frame Ruyan just to get a share of Ruyan's inheritance, right?" Du Xiaomin almost died of anger from my words, but for the sake of money, she managed to calm down. "Bullshit! Ruyan and I have a great relationship!" "This is Ruyan's biological child. I know perfectly well. I took out Liu Ruyan's will right away." "Mom, why are you lying? If you and Ruyan were really close, then why on this will isn't your name even mentioned? Why is all the inheritance left to me?" Du Xiaomin was speechless. Jiboda was still hesitating. After all, he couldn't just say outright that Liu Ruyan made the will for me, only to stick me with all her debts. I glanced at the kid standing behind Jiboda and sneered in my mind. No wonder she pretended to be a good wife for 3 years and suddenly dropped the act. Turns out her first love and son came back. But I wasn't upset at all. "I've already died once after all," I said with a perfectly normal look. "You claim this kid is Ruyan's. Then show me your proof. Like a legally recognized paternity test or a birth certificate." Jiboda and Du Xiaomin both said they didn't have a paternity test. The kid was born at home, so there's no birth certificate either. But the kid is definitely Ruyan's. "Officer, do you see what's going on here? They knew my wife was already cremated, so they deliberately brought a kid here to demand the inheritance and made up lies saying I cremated my wife on purpose. But their story is completely inconsistent from start to finish," Du Xiaomin said anxiously. I can take a DNA test with the kid to prove I'm his grandma." "That proves he's Ruyan's kid too, right?" The cop shook his head. "That doesn't count. It only proves you're related to the kid. But you can't prove your relation to Liu Ruyan. Even if you could, there's no way to confirm you and your husband only had Ruyan as your child." I held back a laugh. The reason I insisted on cremating Liu Ruyan back then was mostly because I was worried about this exact scenario. I didn't expect my bet would actually pay off. Du Xiaomin and Jiboda exchanged a look. Jiboda gritted his teeth. No matter who the kid belongs to, Ruyan isn't really dead. He's the one who cremated Ruyan. He's a murderer. He can't inherit Ruyan's estate. What Jiboda said is technically right. But only if you can prove I'm a murderer, right? I suddenly looked at Wang Manyun. Manyun, you tell everyone. Is Ruyan alive or dead? You're a doctor. You have a family too. Think carefully before you speak. You might not remember, but I still remember back then. You and Mom rushed up and pressed the button. If Ruyan was really alive, then you and Mom are the murderers. I twisted their attempt to stop me back then into them deliberately pressing the button. Du Xiaomin hadn't even finished yelling bullshit when Wang Manyun gritted her teeth and said Sister Shuyuan was really dead. I breathed a sigh of relief, but Jiboda held up his phone. I knew you'd lie, so I brought proof. Jiboda played the video on his phone. This video features Jiboda, Liu Ruyan, Wang Manyun, and Du Xiaomin, 4 people sitting on the sofa, talking about faking Ruyan's death. Liu Ruyan's voice came from the phone, just as disgusting as it was in my past life. I'll get anesthetized then. You find a way to knock my husband out. Then tell him, I've already been cremated. I'll give you 1 million when it's done. But this recording wasn't complete. It didn't include the part where the 4 of them discussed how to stick me with all the debts. Wang Manyun squatted down, with no idea how to defend herself. I really didn't know. Jiboda seemed relieved. I'm not lying to you. You really killed Ruyan, so you need to go to jail. And all the inheritance should go to Auntie. I put on a terrified look and said nothing. After I worked up my emotions for a bit, I looked completely heartbroken. Officers, I want to report a crime. The 3 of them deliberately faked my wife's death and hid it from me. I was absolutely devastated back then. I didn't realize there was anything wrong with my wife's passing. The 2 of them knew full well I wanted to donate organs to my wife and that I was going to cremate her, and deliberately didn't tell me she was still alive. They did this on purpose. They deliberately wanted me to cremate my wife. Then they brought people over to seize our property. I thought my wife had passed away. I followed the normal procedure to cremate her. Is that even wrong? Of course not. The 2 of them didn't expect me to speak so clearly. They thought I'd break down when I found out the truth and let them lead me by the nose. But I've already died once. I'm no longer the naive fool I was in my past life. The moment I woke up, I'd already figured it out, how every step of my life would go next. My throat was hoarse from how sad I was. Back then, I wanted to donate her organs. Mom, you were there too. When you refused to let me donate, why didn't you tell me the truth? If you just wanted a divorce, why would I ever say no? It's obviously you guys who deliberately tricked Ruyan and made her believe your nonsense and fake her own death just to make me the sinner who sends his own wife to the crematorium. How could you be so cruel? That's because Ruyan said you had to be convinced, so I had to stop you from donating her organs. I didn't dare tell you the truth. What about this then? On my way to the crematorium, you called me. That means you were fully aware I was going to take Ruyan to get cremated. I was too heartbroken back then, so I didn't answer your call. Why didn't you send me a text then? And when we got to the crematorium, Ruyan clearly hadn't been cremated yet. Why didn't you tell me the truth then? Instead, in front of everyone, you deliberately pressed the incineration button. Du Xiaomi and Wang Manyun were left speechless. But I knew exactly why. They were confident they had enough time. If they could get me away from the crematorium for a little while, their plan would work perfectly. Fortune favors the bold, right? This farce ended without any conclusion. We each claimed we were in the right, and no one would back down. The police had to take all of us back to the station and detain us temporarily, pending further investigation. But after a few days of investigation, they found I was really a totally devoted, innocent husband. I had no idea Liu Ruyan was cheating on me. I never questioned her about anything. I never checked her phone when she went on business trips or social events. They also interviewed my neighbors, friends and colleagues, and checked the home security footage from when Liu Ruyan was alive, and confirmed we were a deeply affectionate couple. We never even had a single fight. But of course the police had no idea I was reborn. Judging from the evidence they had, a husband like me would never possibly kill his own wife for no reason, right? As for Du Xiaomi, what Wang Manyun and Jiboda said was full of loopholes. They had countless chances to tell me that Liu Ruyan wasn't dead, but they waited until after I cremated her to say anything. especially Wang Manyun and Du Xiaomi. They even saw Liu Ruyan being pushed into the incinerator and still refused to tell the truth. They even pressed the button themselves, though they claimed it was an accident. Who would believe that? On top of that, the whole fake death plan in the first place was already completely absurd. So the final investigation concluded that I was just an innocent grieving man who lost his wife, while the other three were jailed on suspicion of murder. After they were released on bail, Du Xiaomi and Ji Boda were still furious. They kept sending people to harass me every few days. First, I reported it to the property management. Then I called the police, but they stuck to me like gum, haunting me everywhere. I had no other choice in the end. I directly used Liu Ruyan's inheritance to hire 100 bodyguards, and I ordered them that if anyone caused trouble again, except for those two shameless clowns, beat the hell out of everyone else. I'll cover the medical costs if needed. They pissed me off so bad. Du Xiaomi and Ji Boda were fine though, but the other people they egged on to come got the worst of it. They basically kept the hospital busy enough to hit its monthly KPI. In the end, no matter how much Du Xiaomi and Ji Boda tried to egg people on, no one was willing to cause trouble with them anymore. The two could only rage impotently and hope they could kill me with their stares. I found their little act hilarious. I enjoyed my life right in front of their faces. Champagne, fine wine, sports cars, beautiful women. I had it all. I fulfilled every regret I had from my past life, which made Du Xiaomi and Ji Boda grind their teeth in anger. 3 months later, the verdict was announced. The three were found guilty of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment. When the police showed up with the arrest warrant, Du Xiaomi put on a whole dramatic show right there, threatening to kill herself to resist arrest, climbed onto the balcony and threatened to jump off, saying I murdered my own wife, that I'm worse than an animal, and I'll go to hell after I die. She also claimed the police were bending the law for personal gain and treating human lives like dirt. More and more onlookers gathered downstairs to watch the drama. Du Xiaomin seemed to see a glimmer of hope. She tried to rile up the crowd, to stand up for her. She spoke with great emotion, sobbing the whole time, until an hour later, someone casually yelled out, "Are you gonna jump or not?" "Is this just a show? You're wasting my damn time!" Du Xiaomin jumped up in a rage, but her foot slipped, and she fell straight down. She died instantly with a loud thud. Wang Manyun didn't have it any better. After the incident blew up online, her husband immediately filed for divorce. He not only took the kids away, but also ordered the children to cut off all ties with Wang Manyun and never recognize her as their mother again. Before the police came to her door, Wang Manyun begged me for mercy multiple times, hoping that for the sake of our old friendship, I would write a letter of understanding for her. She said if I was willing to forgive her, she would do anything I asked. She didn't want to end up with her family torn apart. But when my family was destroyed last time, whoever took pity on me? She made her own bed, so she has to lie in it. The last time she came, she stripped naked in front of me. I sneered and had 100 bodyguards throw her out. Later on, I heard Wang Manyun tried to kill herself multiple times in prison, but none of her attempts worked. Ji Boda was even more ridiculous. He actually tried to play the family card with me, saying the kid was innocent, and that I loved Liu Ruyan so much. How could I bear to let her child lose both parents and end up an orphan? Besides, the kid was super smart from a young age. He could help me run the company when he grows up. As for him, he said he wasn't greedy. As the kid's biological father, I just needed to give him a few million for his retirement, and he promised to never show up in front of us again. So, I told him with a smile I already contacted the orphanage. The kid won't suffer. As for you, Ruyan's too lonely down there. You need to keep her company. As Ji Boda flew into a rage and cursed me out, I walked out of the police station with a smile and cut ties with everything from my past completely. After everything was over, I fired the 100 bodyguards I hired before and gave them very generous severance packages. There was one female bodyguard, though, who was not only super dedicated at work, her personality also clicked really well with me. Not to mention she's really good looking. I could also see how loyal she was. So I sold my old house and used the inheritance Liu Ruyan left me to buy a bigger house in a better neighborhood and moved in alone with that female bodyguard. I've kept Liu Ruyan's ashes with me this whole time because I believe the spirits are watching. I want her to see from heaven how happy my life is now. Mr. Lin, what do we do next? The curvy, hot, Sharp-eyed female bodyguard was actually a little shy right now, standing behind me, twisting her hands nervously. I smiled. Of course we're responding to the country's call. And tried to have 3 kids in one pregnancy.